There's this group of people in the Bible called the Pharisees. They're kind of the religious gurus of Jesus' time. Now I got to tell you, I kind of think they get a bum rap in the Bible. They are constantly being portrayed going head to head with Jesus, to the point that if Jesus has really given it to someone, you can almost fill in the blanks. It's going to be the Pharisees. Now, they're kind of portrayed as the bad guys, but they weren't always that way. In fact, it was almost the opposite. The Pharisees worked really hard to integrate the Jewish religion into the everyday lives of the people, not to restrict them with all the laws of Moses, but instead to provide meaning and significance for their everyday lives. Sounds good, doesn't it? And it was for a while. Most of us know about this. Our intentions are good and what we do seems to make sense for the time. But then situations and circumstances change, and what we thought was good suddenly starts to go kind of sour. I grew up in a home where my mother would create these amazing feasts every holiday. I think most of you know what this is. She would spend hours laboring in the kitchen over these feasts, and the table was just exquisite. All the best china, all of her sterling silverware, you know the rap. Well, we loved it, and she loved doing it. It was absolutely her joy to serve her family in this way. Well, over time, my sister and I went off to college, 7 hours away, in fact, and things kind of changed. The only times we really did get home were for those big holidays. And when we got home, we didn't really love it that Mom was spending all this time in the kitchen. We felt like it was becoming more of a burden for her and for us. We couldn't enjoy her, and she couldn't enjoy us. You know, we helped out as we could, but you know how it goes. But she kept doing it. She loved to serve us in this way, and she felt like it was really important. Well, eventually, both my sister and I got married and started having kids, in fact, one after another. Well, now you can imagine this pristine feast every holiday at my mom's house. It was more full of babies crying, milk spilled here, toddlers running there. All this time my mom would spend for such chaos. It just didn't feel even worth it anymore, but she still felt like it was. Last Easter, we went home for the holidays, and something incredible happened. We went to church Easter Sunday morning, just as we always did, and then we headed out. Mom and Dad, myself, my family, we loaded up the car, we picked up some lifelong family friends, and we drove an hour south to the Badlands. And there we set up this incredible feast on this picnic table covered with snow, cottonwood trees all around us, the Missouri River right next to us, and these red scoria badland hills rising all around us. It was absolutely incredible. And I'll tell you what, I have never seen anything like it. We had Kentucky Fried Chicken for our Easter feast, but you cannot believe the joy on my mom's face as she watched the kids run through all these cottonwood trees, hunting for Easter eggs, and all of us just enjoying being out in this incredible scenery. I'll never forget it. Something happened that day. I think Mom rediscovered joy. And I think she did it by giving her gifts away, not by preparing this incredible feast, but in a way that was much harder, by not preparing this incredible feast. See, Mom understood something. She understood that what used to be a gift had instead become almost a burden. And she understood that to truly serve the one she loved, she'd have to do something completely different with those gifts that shaped who she was. Instead of keeping them in this box that she'd always known, she'd have to actually let it go. She'd have to let that box come open to be used in a whole new way. And she did it. The miraculous thing wasn't just that we had this awesome feast in this pristine setting of the Badlands. It was more than that. It was just as much Mom's joy, her sheer delight, this look on her face that came from breaking the mold, letting this box of her gifts just open up in a whole new way. You know, I think the Pharisees could have learned something from my mom last Easter morning. they never really did seem to get it. They never really seemed to get how their laws that started out so good for the people had actually become so strict and rigid that they were kind of a killer in a way. So when Jesus showed up one Sabbath morning at this synagogue where the Pharisees were at, well, they immediately challenged Jesus. Now, I'm sure they had seen Jesus do all these healings. I mean, Jesus healed everybody in sight practically, and they knew about this. So here sat this man in the Pharisees' synagogue, this man with a withered hand. And, you know, they wanted to challenge, the Pharisees wanted to challenge Jesus. And so they asked Jesus, they said, "Is it lawful, Jesus, to heal on the Sabbath?" Of course, in their minds, you can't do anything on the Sabbath. That was one of their most strict laws. You couldn't do anything, no work at all, not even heal somebody on the Sabbath. So they asked Jesus this. You know, they wanted to limit Jesus' gifts. They wanted to put a box around when and where Jesus could use his incredible gift of healing. So here's what Jesus replies to their question. He says, okay, if on the Sabbath one of your sheep falls into a pit, wouldn't you reach down and lift up the sheep out of the pit? How much more valuable is a man than a sheep? Therefore it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath. And then Jesus told that man with the withered hand to stretch out his hand, and he healed him right there. Makes me wonder about a lot of things in my own life. Makes me wonder what kind of boxes I've put around my gifts that God has given me. What kind of limits I've set around these incredible gifts that God has given me to serve other people. And it kind of makes me wonder what might happen if I let some of these boxes go. Let some of them just be opened up. I picture my mom's face in the Badlands that day, and I think joy was brought to a new level for her and for us. And I picture the face of that man with the withered hand. Can't you just imagine it? Can't you just imagine his joy over this man, Jesus, leaving all the boxes of these laws back in the dust and just going ahead and healing his hand, Sabbath or no Sabbath? I wonder a lot about my good intentions and all those things I do that I think are so good for me and those around me. And I wonder what my life would look like if I reevaluated the situation, reevaluated the circumstances, like my mom did, like Jesus did. And if I just went for it, just left all my boxes in the dust, all these hedges I put around the gifts that God's given me, and just let them break free. Just let those boxes break wide open.